to announce the endorsement of Paul Schiffer, candidate for U.S. Congress, 16th District. After an intensive 1.5-hour question and answer period with some 40 to 50 Tea Party members, it was determined that Mr. Schiffer represents the fundamental and key beliefs of the organization we feel is well qualified to serve in the U.S. Congress. Republican Party doesn't think I'm worthy to be congressman. Akron Tea Party does. Pat Buchanan, when I was at his house 3 months ago cutting a half-hour endorsement video, Pat Buchanan said this: I recall well the battles that the Buchanan brigades had out there in Ohio with Paul Schiffer's help back in the 1990s. I have always appreciated the tremendous support Paul has given me as a good Reagan Republican and a conservative. I think you were a great help up there. You did a great job in the 90s, and I think you will be a great congressman. That's Patrick J. Buchanan. Another endorsement. John O'Neill, the Switboat Veterans, was up to campaign for me the other week. Remember, he's the guy that single-handedly, with the help of the Switboat Veterans for Truth, ended John Kerry's candidacy. John O'Neill said this about me, Captain John O'Neill. He says, I am very proud to endorse Paul Schiffer. Without his help in 2004 to defeat John Kerry, given for no gain and against great odds, John Kerry might have captured the presidency, a truly frightening thought to anyone who loves our country, and a country that has lost faith in Washington, D.C. Paul's selfless idealism calls us forward to better time for our country. I strongly urge Paul's election. He is exactly the kind of person we need to throw the bums out. And finally, U.S. Senator Bob Smith. He's retired now, lives in Orlando, Florida. I did a lot of work with him in the 1990s on foreign policy and defense issues. He said a week ago in his endorsement of me, and keep in mind he was a 12 years in U.S. Congress, 6 years in the U.S. Senate. He said, I am proud and honored to endorse the candidacy of Paul Schiffer, U.S. Congress in the 16th District, Ohio. I witnessed firsthand Paul's conservative efforts when he was a conservative activist and radio talk show host in the late 1990s when I was in the U.S. Senate. Paul had the values right then, and he has them now. Now, what's wrong with these people? They shouldn't be endorsing me. You know, the Republican Party here in the state and locally thinks I'm a right-wing extremist or not capable of the job. I'm a neophyte. What's wrong with these people endorsing me? Well, I tell you what, they know that I know the issues, and they've seen me help them fight in the trenches. I worked with Bob Barr on helping him with the impeachment situation against Bill Clinton. I helped draft some of the briefing papers that were used, the Chinagate scandal. Who remembers when Bill Clinton sold us out to the communist Chinese? I was the one that put together a lot of the documentation. Something else I haven't bothered to put on the website. After we went into Iraq in 2003, I was over there in Israel covering the war for the Salem radio network, and when I got back, I worked for a friend of mine who runs a defense think tank, and I helped him draft the democratization program for Iraq. And I helped with the Iranian Freedom March when Iranian dissidents came over to our country a few years back, and I helped put together a Liberty March for them. So I do know what I'm talking about. And so I asked the Republican Party, you can call me every name in the book, but at least give me credit that I've done my job serving our country and serving it well. Let me conclude with something that I put together for a radio show I had in the 90s. I had a show for a year before I started the Schiffer Report called Voices from Valley Forge. And the show was called that because I used to always, and I still do, like to hearken back to the time of the Revolutionary War. And this is how we started the show off, and I think it encapsulates the feel, the message of my campaign. We started my broadcast out with blood-soaked snow at Valley Forge, flesh turned black and hellish amputations were the terrible travails that gave birth to a nation. And while these ragged, torn, and forlorn men shivered by smoldering fires in the early dawn, the father of our country knelt in the snow in some secret place, and with gnarled hands clasped together and his head bowed, Washington prayed. Now our nation is in another peril, not in the throes of birth pains, but in the death rattle of a morally and spiritually dying nation. Voices from Valley Forge echo across that valley crucible in the corridor of time, calling us back to the providential roots from whence we came. I want to represent those. I hear those voices from Valley Forge calling. They're crying out, my God, save our country. We need to do something about our nation, not just me and the other candidates, but all you out in the audience. And I ask that you sacrifice a little more consider prayerfully voting for this candidacy. I want to be your U.S. Congressman in the 16th District. In conclusion, remember these words spoken by George Washington. Labor to keep alive in your breast that little spark of celestial fire called conscience. Now, do we have time for some questions? Okay, how much time do we have?
We have 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, went that quick.
Yeah.
Already. Dave.
Hang on.
What?
I think what we're going to do is, in order to expedite it, we were going to just ask the questions through the submission of email, and this way that I could just ask those questions. I've already selected 4 questions. I do have others that I can go beyond in case we do have the time.
Wait a minute, that's not that. I came here to ask a question. I don't want to do it through email. I appreciate the fact that he's here. I mean, John Rocheri's in front of the elementary school somewhere answering tough questions from 6th grade.
I personally would have no problem. I just want to keep it to a point where we can get these questions
We
asked.
got 15 minutes.
Okay, but then again, I promised the candidates that they would come from one person.
Yeah.
I didn't want to change that up on them. I do have the candidates here. I do have 2 here now. I don't know if Mr. Renese's got a chance, or Paul has a chance. I mean, I have no problem doing it, but again, I did want to do it this way so that we get some sort of order, move them in and out, because they do have other things to do today. They are eight days out. And if you want to talk to them afterwards, that's fine. Paul has been here since 5:30. Now, I will allow maybe one question if you'd like to ask a question, and then we can go to the other 4, because I want to be fair to everybody as well as the candidates.
Understandable, thank you. What was the score of the Akron Tea Party, Paul? The score of the Akron Tea Party vetting process?
Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Got it. The information's on that back table. Where did I put it here? I had it. Here it is. There's copies on the back table along with my literature back there at the Schiffer for Congress. On the back of their endorsement page, they vetted a ton of candidates. For the past 4 months, I think I was vetted January 2nd, and my score was the 3rd highest of all the candidates. Sandra O'Brien, she's a great woman. Sandra O'Brien got a 96%. I came in 3rd place statewide with a 94%.